Good morning and welcome to Breakfast at Productronica, day one at the show, and we actually made it. There's a huge crowd outside waiting to get in, obviously because of the COVID restrictions. Things are a little bit slower than usual, but nevertheless we have a huge program for you this week. My first guest on my program today is Luc Van Den Hove, who is the president of IMEC in Belgium, and he's also a key member of the SEMI board. So welcome, Luc. Nice to see you today.
Nice to see you.
Okay, so I think the first thing I want to talk about really is to ask you what we can expect from Semicon Europa, because Semicon Europa, of course, is one hall here at the Munich Messe here. What can we expect to see there today?
Well, I think that it's so important that we can meet physically. I think after such a long lockdown, and I think it's clear that we are still not out of this crisis. But it is so important. I mean, last year the entire event was virtual. I think it's so important to have the connection among all the people, and especially now in these times where there's so much to do about chips, about the supply chain of chips, the shortages and so on. It is so important that people can gather again.
It's a very fluid market. I mean, there's so many variables and things happening at the time, as you say, supply chain being one of them. There's also a lot of new technologies coming on the market. Of course, we've got electric vehicles coming through. We've got heterogeneous technologies and even quantum computing on the horizon. So how does SEMI play into some of these new technologies?
Well, I think that there is indeed so much happening these days in this world, and I think the role of SEMI is to a large extent to bring the ecosystem together through shows like this, but also by organizing many events. The semiconductor industry actually is characterized by a global supply chain and global interactions. Also, the innovation is to a large extent the result of many of these global interactions. And this is where SEMI tries to contribute by really bringing the people together and representing this industry, which is really important. I think over the last year, the attention to chips has increased dramatically. Now everybody talks about chips and realizes how important this technology is to drive innovation in so many sectors. You mentioned the automotive sector. This is one sector, but basically all industrial sectors built on innovations from semiconductors and chips.
Right. So let's mine down a little bit on the heterogeneous technologies, because it's characterized by packages with chiplets inside them, essentially. And these chiplets have materials that are compatible, very few CTE mismatches, etc. Do you see that as a technology becoming standard going forward? I mean, if you open your iPhone at the moment, you'll see pretty much 8 big chips, large chips, and very few small discrete semiconductors. Do you think that's going to be a pattern for the future?
Absolutely. I think this is going to be extremely important. In fact, this heterogeneous integration is just one more step in this evolution which we have been experiencing already for 40, 50 years in the semiconductor industry, and that is this drive towards building always more complex systems. We need to do that in order to respond to this insatiable demand for processing more data, storing more data, integrating more functionality in our systems, and that requires kind of a reduction of the form factor to a large extent, and this has been enabled through what we typically know as Moore's law, where we are integrating more and more chips on a single die. But this Moore's law is also one other version of Moore's law is by stacking the chips on top of each other using interposer technology, and this is also needed because one technology may not be ideal for all the functions of a system, and so we, by combining these chiplets using heterogeneous integration, we can optimize the process technology for each of these individual parts in a chiplet, and that's one of the reasons why I think it's going to be very important, a very important technology to make these ultra complex systems that we will need in the future.
For the future, yeah, absolutely. And talking about future technologies, I mean, I touched on quantum. How far out do you think that is?
Well, I believe that high-performance computing is very important, and there are several steps to be taken there. There is now the implementation of artificial intelligence in a much more energy-efficient way into these accelerators, and so domain-specific compute technologies are being developed. And quantum compute is like one of these steps, but it's still quite relatively far out. It's not going to be a general purpose computing platform that can be applied to everything, but specific, highly parallelized tasks could run very efficiently on quantum computing. But we believe, although there is a lot of progress being made over the last couple of years, we're still talking about something that is maybe 10 years out, I believe.
Right. Okay. Okay. Yeah, another word that seems to have been, obviously we had last week in Glasgow, we had COP25. So another word that's creeping into our lexicon these days is sustainability.
Absolutely.
How does that apply to electronics and possibly even the electronic supply chain? Does it make sense to ship these components and devices halfway around the world?
Yeah, well, I think that sustainability is extremely crucial in our industry. On the first hand, I'm very convinced that our technology and our chip technology, we have to make those processes more performant, more energy efficient, because if we don't develop newer technology, more performant technology, given the fact that the data rate is exploding exponentially, if we would not develop more efficient technology, more performant technology, more energy efficient technology, our energy consumption related to electronics would just explode exponentially. Yep. It would exceed even the world's available energy a few years from now. So this is impossible. So our industry really has the task to develop technologies that are more energy efficient, and that's why we have this continuous push towards more SLAW and to enable more SLAW. And I'm convinced it's not going to stop. So on the one hand, our technology can contribute to solving some of the big sustainability challenges on our planet. On the other hand, we have to make sure that when we fabricate those chips, that we do that in a sustainable way. And so there is a very big focus now in our industry to make sure that we optimize energy consumption during the manufacturing, that we minimize water consumption, optimize waste treatment, make sure that we minimize greenhouse gas emission during the fabrication processes. And I believe that for that, the entire supply chain needs to work together. And therefore, we are setting up a major program at IMEC to bring together all the key players representing all the layers of the value chain, like material suppliers, equipment suppliers, the fab companies, with the goal to really develop technologies that are more sustainable for the future. And nobody alone can do that. You have to bring together the ecosystem, and I believe that's also where SEMI can play an important role.
Yeah, excellent. No, I agree. I think it's going to be something that's going to play into the future roadmap for electronics in a big way.
Absolutely.
But there you go. Anyway, look, I want to thank you for sparing some time to come in and talk to us today. It's great to see you. I hope you have a wonderful show this week at Semicon Europa. There's certainly plenty of people out in that lobby that are waiting to get in, so which is an encouraging sign. But for now, thank you very much for coming in.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Super.
It was a pleasure.
So there you go. Coming up after the break, we're going to be talking about one of the biggest mergers in the industry in the recent weeks.
SMT Thermal Discoveries are the experts in thermal processes from -50 degrees Celsius up to 450 degrees Celsius. With highly stable reflow soldering systems, vacuum soldering to reduce voiding in solder joints, and whether you need temperature treatment systems with standard equipment or flexible solutions, SMT Thermal Discoveries have the machine to your thermal challenges.
Okay, and welcome back. Now I'm delighted to be joined by Yoav from Nano Dimension, which has got probably the biggest merger news at the moment at the show. Nano Dimension, of course, recently making the acquisition of Essemtec. So welcome, Yoav. Nice to have you with us today.
Thank you very much. We're speaking to this one?
Yes, you're speaking into that one. So tell me, first of all, I mean, Nano Dimension obviously cut its teeth with a 3D unique system for making multi-layer PCBs.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about why you think you needed to. You also acquired another AI company, by the way.
Yes.
In the meantime, so you've got an AI company. You recently acquired Essemtec, which is does tier 3 and tier 4
Sure.
equipment for SMT manufacturing. What's the synergy?
Okay, so Trevor, the vision of converting the PCB industry into, let's say, more advanced, more modern, has to deal with two issues. First of all is the fabrication of PCBs, which is a very old, 70, 50 years old process of fabricating it, and not too clean, not too efficient, but that's the way it's done.
Mm-hmm.
But the second part of the PCB industry is the PCBA, obviously the mounting of surface mounts, which by now, the surface mounting became actually, from robotics and automation point of view, more advanced than the fabrication of PCB over the years. Now, once you come with a solution of changing the old fabrication process into being inefficient and as such to be by printing 3D, you can stick with just printing the board in 3 dimension. But if you're already where we are, in printing the board in 3 dimension, in multi-layers, in different shapes, somewhere in the process, you have to start to mount units, components, because you're printing in 3D, so sometimes you will print over the units.
Yeah.
And if you don't mount them on the way, what did you change? You'll end up still having to have boards that are flat because they have to go for mounting.
Right.
So the vision and the acquisition of Essemtec is the fact that we're going to combine in the automatic process of printing a 3-dimensional board. During the process, it will be also mounting the units, the components on the board. So think about a board that instead of fabrication is being printed, at certain point of time, you mount automatically. You mount components, you continue to print, you mount more components, you continue to print, until when you finish, comes out from the printing machine a board with mounted components.
Yeah, so basically you're using a robot inside a pick-and-place machine to turn the device to keep it planar so that you can mount the
Yes, and by the way, Essemtec had historically already had a mounting technology that was from the side.
Yeah.
Which they initially developed and then they dropped because the industry was not ready for that. So we're very excited about now bringing it back, and we will mount on different angles.
Okay.
Because we're going to print in different angles.
Now, the thing is that obviously the Nano Dimension machine for making the boards is a fairly complex piece of equipment.
Yes.
A fairly expensive piece of equipment too.
Yes.
So, are you planning to sell this as a unit to people, a Nano Dimension machine plus an Essemtec assembly, or are you planning to run it as a service?
Excellent question. 2 answers to that question, as usual. First of all, initially we will sell the 2 machines separately, but we will have a robotic connection, so they'll be standing beside each other. So once you finish printing a circuit board, you'll be able to mount and it'll be connected. Second, next generation machine is going to be integrated. In the process, we're going to give services as well. We're already giving services because it's becoming expensive. So, and it's a new technology. So you're in market education. So we already have customers that are paying us a few $1,000s per project, and we have actually we call it service centers in Germany, in Israel, in the United States, where we exactly do what we do. We give the services, and people, once they get used to it and they start to like it, eventually we hope they'll buy a machine.
Wonderful, yeah. Okay, so there's quite a lot of parts to that. So when do you think you're going to be up and running with it?
Up and running with the services, we're already up and running with services.
Right.
The Essemtec acquisition happened 2 weeks ago. So we believe that the combination of the two machines, one beside the other, robotically connected but not integrated, will be somewhere in the middle of the year 2022, maybe toward the end of the year. And right after that, in parallel, we are already so we started before the end of the acquisition to build a machine that has the SMT already integrated into the machine. So it's not machines standing one beside the other. It'll be one machine that's doing both.
Right. Now, is it your intention to keep Essemtec operating in the way it has been with its existing Tier 3 and Tier 4 customers?
Absolutely. We intend. Essemtec has a great brand recognition, especially in Europe. Plus, they have a beautiful operation in Lucerne Canton, which is by now more than 20 years old. So we intend to continue to serve the customers. We intend to take their machines as they are and expand the market in the United States, which they are historically not strong in, and we are much stronger. But in parallel to that, and serving the existing customers with existing machines, and the new machines are coming, we're going to do the integration I talked to you about in the R&D laboratories, and we'll come with the 2 generation within this year and toward the end, the beginning of next year. So
excellent.
As an operation, Essemtec is going to continue to grow because we see demand. They're having great year this year, very good year, and they're expecting even better year next year. So we're looking forward to do that as well.
No, we're certainly in an industry that's expanding by application all the time,
Yes,
so
yeah,
there's no shortage of opportunities, that's for
absolutely,
sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great. Well, I want to thank you for coming in and telling us about this today. It's a really exciting announcement.
Trevor, your questions are excellent. I'm always happy to talk to somebody who I feel understands what he's talking about.
What he's talking about, yeah.
It's always a
well,
pleasure.
it's an interesting industry.
We're a public company. Sometimes I speak with investors, right?
Yeah.
So investors are great supporters, but not all of them understand what you know.
What you're doing. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Okay.
Thank you so much.
So there you go. So that brings us to the end of this morning's breakfast at Productronica. We'll be back in about 30 minutes' time with the first of our panel discussions coming from the forum. But for now, this is Trevor Galbraith saying thank you for watching.
Hi, this is the Keith Bryant Show, live from Productronica 2021, and I'm here with Simona from Excelum. Hi, Simona. The Semicon area with the Made in 4 project. So perhaps you can start by telling us a little bit about Made in 4, and then we'll get on to Excelum afterwards.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for inviting me today. And yes, indeed, Excelum was invited to present our advancements during Made in 4 project, to present today at Semicon Europa at Tech Arena. And about Made in 4, it's a huge project for metrology advances in digitized electronic components and systems. We have a total of 47 partners in the project, and Excelum is involved in the part for developing X-ray based metrology techniques for electronic components and systems. And basically we work there for development of X-ray source. What else I could tell you about Made in 4 is that it started more than 2 years ago and will continue till the end of this year, of next year in fact.
Okay, so yeah, you're right. 47 partners going on for several years. It's definitely a very big high-profile project, and it's I guess you feel good that Excelum is part of it.
Yes, very good, especially since we are a Swedish SME, so it's very good for SME to be this part of this kind of industry-driven projects, and allows us to really develop our products based on what exactly the market and the industry needs today. So we develop technology which is really relevant for today's applications.
Yeah, and I know your two different X-ray sources, the metal jet and the nanotube, and you know they're both leading sources in their field by quite a long direction. So I'm sure that you bring a lot of let's say technology to the partnership as well.
Yes, indeed. We are lucky to benefit of very advanced technology in the field of X-ray sources, the liquid metal jet technology, which was invented by Exilum founders. And today we can say that we have the brightest X-ray microfocus source on the market today. And this is one of the key points of the Made in 4 project in the World Package where we are active, since we with the metal jet X-ray source, we really have a new key tool for development of metrology techniques that are needed now for going to 5 nanometers and below in semiconductor industry.
Yeah, it's a really wonderful piece of technology, and I'm sure the Made in 4 project will actually help it develop even further.
Indeed, and it already happened. So part of our developments in Made in 4 were already included in a new project that we launched this year. If somebody is interested, it's called MetalJet E1 Plus, and it's a much more powerful X-ray source, which we are very proud of today. And to give you an idea, our developments would enable the X-ray metrology to have a higher productivity for the end user, and also more precise measurements. So definitely, I think we can make an impact in the metrology field with this product, and not only because we also recently showed that we could do very fast imaging of batteries, for example, with the metal jet. And with this, I think we might have an advantage on the market with this product.
Wow, so yeah, a lot of exciting stuff happening. Oh, thank you, Simona, for coming in and joining us, and hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you very much.
That's Keith Bryant from The Keith Bryant Show, and my next guest is Sean from Cyber Optics.
SMT Thermal Discoveries are the experts in thermal processes from -50 degrees Celsius up to 450 degrees Celsius. With highly stable reflow soldering systems, vacuum soldering to reduce voiding in solder joints, whether you need temperature treatment systems with standard equipment or flexible solutions, SMT Thermal Discoveries have the machine to your thermal challenges.
Keith Bryant Show from Productronica, and I'm here with Sean from Cyber Optics. So Sean, first day of the show, not quite halfway through yet. How's it looking so far?
Keith, great to be on your show. Thanks for the invitation. Show's going quite well, actually. I'm pleasantly surprised. We've had quite a few customer visits to the booth already, so great to meet back in person. So that's a big plus. So far, so good.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest one that everybody's saying. You know, it's good to see people in 3 dimensions again.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, hopefully the show is going to be the first big step forward to something better. So, what have you got on your stand at the moment?
Well, we've got the SQ3000 3D AOI system on the stand, Keith, and we're exhibiting or demonstrating our CMM capability. So we've developed some unique metrology-based CMM software. So we're not only able to do 3D AOI at high speed, the system can actually be an inline high-speed CMM solution for metrology. So we're demonstrating those features today.
Wow, so you've really got the ability to measure that accurately now.
Correct. We're down to the sensor on the booth is at 7 microns 3D, that's lateral resolution, and we have a 0.5 micron Z resolution. So we can measure features down to 2 microns in X, Y, and Z.
So what does that allow you to find that you couldn't find before?
We can do most advanced SMT applications quite easily down to this resolution, but what we're able to do now is micro LED, O201 metric, pure measurement, wire bond inspection. So it's really advancing the 3D AOI capabilities.
Yeah, and it's getting what I'm seeing in several shows here. Historically, we've all been faster, and now it's more about flexibility. It's more about accuracy. It's more about getting more out of the machine.
Absolutely, Keith. Yeah, and, I think with 3D, it's enabling us now to be more precise, as you pointed out, for sure, more accurate, less errors, less false failures. So we can set up a pure measurement process now rather than just a go, no-go process. So we need less operator intervention.
Great, and this is something that's been out on the market before because of COVID, or is this effectively your launch?
It was, I think we launched it just pre-COVID, but it's probably the first exhibition where we've been able to kind of demonstrate it in person for sure. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it's good to see people coming back after COVID, and also equipment getting back out into the industry and people talking about it, and things moving forward. Because for about 20 months there was, to be honest, not a lot going on.
Well, I think everyone's tiring of the Zoom and the Teams calls, Keith, definitely. It's nice to press some flesh and talk in person, yeah.
Yeah, and when you've got a great product like you have, it's very hard to show it in 2D, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. It's great to get customers on the booth and and demonstrate it real time. No smoke and mirrors.
Yes. Yeah. That's always the danger when you do stuff with Zoom. I've even seen people that can make me look good on a Zoom call. So, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Well, thank you for coming in and sharing with us, and I hope you have a lot of success with the new equipment at the show and beyond.
Pleasure, Keith. Thanks very much.
And that's Keith Bryan from the Keith Bryan Show at Productronica.
SMT Thermal Discoveries are the experts in thermal processes from -50 degrees Celsius up to 450 degrees Celsius. With highly stable reflow soldering systems, vacuum soldering to reduce voiding in solder joints, whether you need temperature treatment systems with standard equipment or flexible solutions, SMT Thermal Discoveries have the machine to your thermal challenges.
welcome back to the Keith Bryant Show at Productronica. And I'm here with my good friend Alberto, who 3 months ago became the managing director of Plasma Treat, one of the things which is definitely growing in our industry as a technology and a need because of conformal coating and a whole load of other reasons. So I guess the first question, Alberto, is are you enjoying it so far?
Absolutely, Keith. But I want to correct you. I'm managing director for Plasma Treat Nordic. It's for the Nordic setup. So that is important.
Oh, my apologies. Yes,
No
Nordic
problem.
is very important.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
But you're enjoying it. It's obviously a different organization, a different setup than where you've been for. I won't say how many years because it makes us both look old. But
Yeah.
where you've been for a long time. So no, it's I guess it's a new challenge, and you felt it was the right time.
It is, and no, it's no secret. I worked for Mycronic for 21 years. I had fantastic 21 years with Mycronic, but I came to a point in my life where I felt that it might be interesting to do something different. So I joined the Plasma Treat group. So the very, very good. It's Plasma Treat. It's actually a family-owned company based in Steinhagen in Germany. We are approximately around 300 people. So this is the same size as my data was back in the days where I started 21 years ago, which is today Mycronic. So yeah, it's very interesting, very interesting.
Good. And obviously, part of the reason that you're there is to grow the Nordic business and to find new applications. And
Yes.
I know you've taken on one or two very good salespeople already. So,
Yeah.
how is the business model looking?
The business model is as follows: that our headquarter for the Scandinavian setup will be located in Göteborg. And the reason to that is that Göteborg is a little bit of an industrial hub in Scandinavia. Due to reason that Volvo is located there with a big factory, you have the bearing manufacturer SKF, so you have a lot of heavy industry in that region, and geographically it's well positioned. So what we do is actually that we are building up our team with we will have application engineer, we will have salespeople, but we will also work with distributors and or partners, better said, partners in the other countries like Denmark, Norway, Finland, and also the Baltic states.
Okay, so you're bigger than just electronics now.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, and this is very, very interesting because I come from the electronic industry, as you know, Keith. But now we are everywhere where there is a surface needed to be pre-treated. So, a very big part of our customers and also from our revenue point of view, it's the automotive. I would say that this is the biggest part today, and that is just growing, especially now where we have the movement with the EV batteries, with the wire bonding. There is surfaces which need to be treated, so there is so many applications in a car. I think it's in total it's counted to like 100 different applications, just in an ordinary car. So that's really, really interesting.
Yeah, that's a lot of very nice applications. But you do quite a bit in electronics as well, and from what I've seen, plasma in electronics is a growing need for the last 6 months and longer.
It is, and a lot of this is driven by the new regulations. With VOC, we want to get rid of these volatile organic compounds. The electronic industry is not different than the packaging industry or the automotive and so on, because the driving forces are actually the same. Everything needs to be more environmentally friendly. We want to get rid of the wet chemicals, primers in the industry. So plasma treatment is actually the solution, which replaces the old way to clean surfaces.
Yeah, so not only are you increasing your business, but you're good for the planet as well. Huh?
Absolutely, absolutely. Environmental friendly. This is one of the mottos we have in the company.
Okay, well, my friend, I wish you every success and thank you for joining me. This is Keith Bryant signing off from the Keith Bryant Show at Productronica 2021.
Good morning. Welcome to this morning's panel discussion, Supply Chain Logistics in a Post-COVID World. The pandemic's been an enormous disruptor to the industry, ranging from chip shortages to excessive freight costs and even political interference. Is decoupling from China and regionalization of manufacturing a reality, or what are the likely impacts? I'm joined on stage to discuss this by a great panel. I have Mark Goodwin, who's the CEO of Ventec.
Hello.
Nice to see you, Mark. Then I have to my right here, Dirk Stender from CalcuQuote. Roving reporter, friend, and consultant, Keith Bryant from Keith Bryant Consultancy.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Great. They're talking about chip shortages and fab shortages, if you look at the press. But of course, there's no point building all these fabs if you don't have all the infrastructure behind it, like the PCB guys, like a lot of the other capacity that's currently in Asia.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of regionalization, I would differentiate here a little bit. And as Mark said, on the raw material part, on the earlier supply chain, I don't see a massive change in this. Mm-hmm. What could change, nonetheless, is the PCBA assembly. And I see other driving factors. GOP25 could be one, but I see a major driving factor in terms of salaries. Salaries in Asia, salaries in China. And that's not a COVID effect, but a long-lasting effect that salaries go up. And if you think about that in Shenzhen, you're easily paying Eastern European salaries,
right,
then of course, it makes a lot of sense for you to change the supply chain if you're an European PCBA assembly company to say, okay, why do I need to go to China when it's the same price than in Eastern Europe? And with China, I have more and more the, let's say, geostrategical challenges that are somehow combined with the China business. Mm-hmm. That's still a concern for many PCBA, for many OEMs to have production in China. Mm-hmm. And I think once the salaries are more or less on par,
I think you're right. The salaries have certainly come up quite a bit in China and other parts of Asia. But also there's been a lot more automation coming into manufacturing, especially in the PCBA side. So really, the labor factor as part of the landed cost of goods equation is becoming less important.
Yeah, it's definitely becoming less important. And also the problem, it's not just the cost of labor, but it's the skill set of the people. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm seeing is the biggest problem. You can't get skilled, experienced people to run a production line. And even with automation, even with everything else, you still need that very skilled person. The people that you don't need so much of are what we call the line operators.
Yeah.
But the technicians and the quality engineers, probably you need more of them because the quality of what you're building is going up. Yield becomes more and more important when cost becomes more important. And getting those people pretty much anywhere in the world is a struggle. It's a struggle in the UK, it's a struggle in Europe, it's a struggle in the US, and in a lot of places in Asia, it's starting to become a struggle as well. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why, I do some work with a couple of large Chinese manufacturers. They've set up sites in Thailand, they've set up sites in Vietnam, and they almost have a 6-month training program for those engineers in China to actually let them loose on a production line. Right. So they're doing the work, they're producing the skilled people themselves because they can't get them. So they're upskilling the workforce and spreading them out to the, I will say maybe better places to work around Asia.
Yeah, I mean, it's a global problem, this getting skilled workers, for sure. Now, am I correct in reading somewhere that over 80% of the people in Vietnam are university graduates?
I'm not sure it's quite that high. I'd heard 60%.
Right.
But yeah, the skill level in Vietnam is high. The experience level is very, very low. The manufacturing there is still clothing and shoes and all of these kind of goods. So people are used to working in production, but not at the high level of electronics. But again, if you've got a if you've got a clever, degree-educated person, it's not 2 years to train them how to do something important on a production line for us.
Right, okay. So, Mark, the US opened up on November 8th for international flights going back and forward to Europe and to Asia. Do you think that's going to make a big impact on trying to alleviate some of the supply chain problems we've been having? Because essentially a lot of electronic components are carried in the bellies of these aircraft.
It's got to help. More flights has got to help, particularly at the moment when there are 60 or 70 ships at anchor off Long Beach, full of goods that they can't get through the ports on the West Coast. So yes, air freight has a place, but also we're heading into Christmas and then Chinese New Year, so there will be capacity constraints on air freight as well. I mean, just to give you a flavor of what's happened in logistics, so pre-pandemic, a 20-foot general purpose container was around, depending on, with a bit of seasonality, $1,500 to $2,000 door to port.
Now, where's that from?
That's from Shanghai, let's say, through to Rotterdam or through to even to the west coast of America. Now, or at the peak, and it's softened a little bit, we were having to pay $18,000 for a 20-foot general purpose container. Now, so that's the difference between on a piece of 1.6 rigid laminate of effectively nothing per square foot to 30 cents, 35 cents a square foot of cost just in logistics.
So what do you do about that? I mean, do you just pass that on to the customer?
You have to pass it on because otherwise you are out of business. I mean, my philosophy all the way through this has been charge what I have to charge, but make sure I've got product available for my customers. Because in the end, the price is linked to the cost, but without material, without flour, you can't make bread, you know, and this is a bigger cost.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Okay, so what structural changes do you think needs to happen to avoid these supply chain crises in the future?
I think one of the biggest topic is digitalization. Digitalization of your supply chain, because with digitalization, you're able to search for more suppliers and search with the suppliers for more components. So that's one of the things that make your supply chain more active and more resilient to changes, to effects like COVID, where you directly need to change your supply chain structure, where you need to find hard to find components somewhere in the world. And if you still go, and many PCBA companies do that, they go from web shop to web shop to web shop. And if you do that, it takes an hour, 2 hours, but you want to automate things like this. And that's an entry position for automation. Many PCBA companies do that already, but you can go also to next steps and to directly make quotations and make yourself more resilient by quote quicker to your OEMs to save at least there some time, which is often overlooked because often it takes 1 week, 2 weeks to get a quote out to an OEM. And if you save that time, you're more reactive to crisis. And of course, your customer will love it to have a quote much earlier than you said.
Yeah, well, I mean, OEMs are screaming out for more visibility in the supply chain. You know, that's something they're definitely wanting. But I mean, Keith, we're seeing this even happening inside the factory as well with these companies that have started putting in component X-ray counters and storage towers and stuff like that. Because you know, with all the shortages they're having, they at least know what they've got in their inventory, and so they can work out exactly what they can build. You know, so maybe we can't build this order today, but we can pull that order forward because we know we've got that there. So better traceability and knowledge of what of your inventory and control of it is critical.
Oh, most certainly. I mean, gone are the days when you can have a whole load of boards packed up at the corner of the production line that are missing two components, and you're going to hand solder them when they come in, and hopefully that's not too long because you've got 3 people chasing them and 4 promises have been broken already.
Yeah.
But people can't work that way anymore. And you need to know how much of what you can build. And when you've built them, you need to stop and set up for something else. So, it's about control on the line. It's about towers. It's about having everything close to the line. And it's also about having machines that you can swap between products very quickly. Because that starts to become a bigger and bigger issue. You used to set up for a week and run a whole product. And now you're having to set up for 2 or 3 a day. And as soon as something goes inwards, you want it on the line. Yeah. And if you don't, you're losing money. And if you're losing money, you're losing profit. And if you're losing profit, then with everybody trying to be as slim as they can, things just start going south very, very quickly. So, all of these things, people say, oh, yeah, but it costs money to buy them. But if you look at the cost of a production line sitting there, waiting for a component to actually drop through the post box, that becomes a crazy number when you actually work it out in reality, compared to, the line's going to be down for a couple of hours, it's not a big deal, which is how people used to think in the good old days. And, that's not a COVID thing, that's just a supply chain thing, it's a productivity thing, it's about yield, and, it's about, the whole world working on smaller margins than it used to.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely changed days. I mean, Mark, it used to be pre-COVID, everybody was working to just in time. Do you think, with all the shortages and things these days, do you think a just-in-time model is dead?
No. People still want to work just in time. They don't share any data, they don't share information, and it makes our job harder. We just happen to be pretty good at predicting their needs based on their historic usage. Now, I think we can get 70, 80% of our business right that way, and then we put our time and effort into the 20, 30% that we can't predict, and there we just have to use brute force and ignorance to get product where it needs to be, when it needs to be, and that's supply chain skills, logistics skills, whatever. Although I've made 2 hires in our business, 2 young guys, both with supply chain backgrounds, recent supply chain university, one with a master's education as well. And my whole plan with these guys is to start mining the data more to get better, because my customers won't share it, but I have really a lot of data. Now what I need is people with the skills to really analyze that data and see what it tells me. Maybe it's something useful. I don't know. Maybe it's not, but we should go looking at least.
Yeah. I mean, and you do a bit more of that, Dirk, because I mean, you have visibility into a lot of the component suppliers across the world, and you're part of a suite of new companies that have sprung up, basically, creating this service, if you like, where you've got APIs connected to the actual output and availability coming from these factories.
Exactly. What we do, we are a software provider that is using APIs, distributor APIs, and also partly manufacturer APIs to have more visibility in the supply chain. And we are already since 2014 in the market. So I would say here that's not going to disappear. And the need for digitalization and the positive things, the benefits from digitalization, they don't disappear when COVID is going to be over. What must be clear is that this is going to be the future, because the supply chain is going to get more and more complex. As mentioned here on the employee skills side, also the productions will be more and more complex. That's why you need more skills on the employee side, but you need to have also a supply chain process that is up to date, and checking out and calculating Excel-based is simply not what EMS companies can do anymore. And of course, if you have more sophisticated ways to get an idea where which component is, to also purchase electronic components digitally, that's of course a changing factor also compared to your competition. Because
I would imagine it would also play into help you with things like counterfeit avoidance. Actually having better visibility as to where the components are actually sourced from. It's going to help you to have, basically control any issues you might have with counterfeit.
it helps you to support, to make better decisions, to work more on the strategic parts.
Yeah.
And just to be able to work more on the strategic parts and leave a little bit the easy parts behind, that's one of the main factors why digitalization helps you, because you don't want to work on components with a low value. You only want to work there where there's a problem and where there's value in the background.
Right.
And of course, we have enough components currently where there are problems.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's move on to, let's see, the elephant in the room here. Taiwan is obviously home to the largest fab in the world, TSMC. It's also home to the 6 largest EMS companies, ranging from Foxconn to a whole range of other ones. What happens if the unthinkable happens and China invades Taiwan and there's an even bigger supply chain disruption there? What's our plan B?
Thank you for that simple, easy, straightforward question, Trevor. I think our plan B is maybe not to use as much in terms of electronics as we do at the moment. And let's go back to cars that are all manual and not 70% of their product being within electronics. Because to be honest, there isn't a plan B. It would be the same as, the nice gentleman from Ventec not being able to buy copper foil anymore. No copper foil, no boards, no assemblies, no box build, no products, nothing.
I suggest we all retire if that happens.
Yeah. I think it's going to be more acute for you because, so many, board builders in China. It'd be massive. It'd be catastrophic in many ways.
There is no plan B in my opinion.
Yeah.
No.
I don't see it either.
Yeah.
So I like the plan B that's retirement.
Probably. Okay, no.
Yeah, well, as I say,
I don't have that luxury, so I need to think about that, how the future is going to work. And of course, if someone has a plan B somewhere, show it to us, then, and of course also develop this somewhere to go to a plan B. And because this is going to, if that unthinkable is happening, then we have a massive problem everywhere. And seeing that Taiwan is an economy specialized only in electronics, if you see what's the share of electronics manufacturing of the whole supply chain in Taiwan, then this is going to be massive.
The world's biggest chemistry suppliers for our business, the world's biggest glass suppliers, the world's biggest copper suppliers are all either in Taiwan or China. So there is no plan B. In my opinion, there is no plan B for this.
And if one tries to take out the other one, then we can't deal with either of them. So that's 70% of our possible components and everything else just completely gone. So there's maybe sheep farming in Scotland is the best opportunity going forwards.
Right. Okay. Well, as I say, this is something that's well above our pay grade. So I put it out there for discussion. I'm pretty sure none of us have got an answer to it, but it's.
Trevor, I'm actually pretty sure there isn't an answer to it.
Yeah.
When things started to move to China in terms of our manufacturing, PCBA and suppliers for materials and everything else, there were a few people that at the time we called doomsday guys who said, well, guys, this could all go bad for you. And, we're now a lot nearer those predictions coming true than we were before. My personal view is it's a commercial world, and I think commercially China would not actually want to do this because it affects them hugely as well. But, that can tell you where the future is. But, I have to say, I hope that we're all right, and there's some posturing and there's some throwing of toys out the prams, and then we get back to a couple of years of normality, because all the other options basically they're all unthinkable.
Yeah. Well, I think that there only is one other option, frankly, and I think that is we do nothing, which is unfortunate, but I think. that's going to be all we could do. So let's move on. Last question. Does factory automation level the playing field? Let's start with you, Dirk.
It has to some degree, level the playing field. Yeah, I mean, labor costs in Asia are rising, so anything that can be automated gives us an opportunity to, compete. But our business is largely automated already. I mean, we have big treaters running glass fabric to make pre-preg, and then automatic layup and big automatic presses. So there's not so much for us to do. I think this is more downstream of us than in the laminate business now.
Yeah, absolutely. We should always keep in mind that salary differences are justified by different levels of productivity. So we need to stay and be more productive than competitors with a lower salary. So that's basic economics. And now we should think about which parts of the supply chain need automation, digitalization, and then, of course, as I said, most of your part is already automated. Then you see, of course, PCB assembly, and then is the question how much is automated? We are in the United States, in Europe, we have often medium-sized companies, small companies, and then there, of course, you should take a look what's possible there. Yeah. And usually the production is automated. No one is using THT components to a large degree anymore. All this, it's an SMT world in production. And if you think then about what parts still lack automation, we often come across that the supply chain part is it where most leverage for your company, can be done.
Well, there's also the thing where in a lot of the PCBA plants, the machine downtime is ridiculous. You go into a lot of factories and you see a lot of machines sitting there idle. So I think through automation and being able to get faster changeover, should I say, we should be able to at least reduce that drastically, which would increase our output in manufacturing.
Yeah, factory automation and more than that, factory control.
Yeah.
Is, first of all, it's flagging up all the areas that people didn't look at before, like downtime, like waiting time, like turnover time. And if it's an hour in a day, it's potentially a production hour, and it should be making money, not costing it. So, yeah, I think it's going to level the playing field to an extent, but I think it's still horses for courses as well. So okay. It's better, but it's not the final solution.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, that's brought us to the end of today's panel. We've run out of time, so I want to say a very big thank you to Mark Goodwin from Ventec, to Dirk Stender from CalcuQuote, and of course to our friend Keith Bryant from Keith Bryant Consultancy. And thank you for watching. Coming up in a few minutes, we'll be starting our next panel discussion, which is on the topic of optimizing the pick and place process. So stay tuned, and we'll be back with you again shortly.